We are very lucky to have with us live in the studios this morning, Reverend Harriett Walden. Reverend Harriett Walden is founder and national director of Mothers for Police Accountability, founder and director of the Family Empowerment Institute, and founder and national director of the Silent War Campaign. Harriet, thank you very much for coming in and spending time with us this morning.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation.
So start out, if you would, and tell us what is the Silent War Campaign?
Well, the Silent War Campaign is a campaign to bring attention to how we harm one another. It's a campaign around black-on-black violence and how we're silent when we harm one another. And it's about how do we wake up a community when we've had so many acts of violence, not only in Seattle, but in America over the last 30 years. And a lot of it is directly related to internalized racism and all of the other events that has gone on. But I believe that we must address this issue. There's a culture of death that our children have accepted and they live out of, and not believing that their life is worthwhile and valuable, and that they will have something to contribute to society. And so how do you turn that around is what this is all about. And we are fortunate to be able, at this point, we are fortunate to have a partnership not only with the Seattle Parks Department and also with the Seattle Police Department on this. This is our partnership. And we're multimedia campaigns. We do some campaigns around media. And we have a street team to put flyers out. What we did in February was to take 120 young people to see Red Tails. It was such a good experience because most black kids and adults have never seen a black pilot. I mean, you every now and then you might see one. But to see a whole movie about black pilots in World War II, I mean, the kids left there with so much pride. And so the whole idea is how do you teach people their history and to know that we are so victorious. The time that we've lived in America, we have overcome so much as a group of people who actually have known no safe harbor. We've had no safety since we encountered Caucasians. I mean, since our ancestors were snatched from their homeland, who, by the way, weren't bothering anybody when they got snatched from their homeland. So we've known no safe harbor. And so it's constantly trying to educate and say, hey, we have a right to be on the planet, and you have opportunity. The world really needs you. Let's put down these guns and let's look at how we can be involved in bringing more peace to our community. So it's about bringing peace to the community and expecting people to stop being violent. I think we have to expect it. I think that we've lived in such a violent world for so long. I mean, America is a violent country. You know, it was founded on violence. I mean, we like to say all of this other stuff, but they had proud people living in America. When the boat people came here, when the settlers when they came by way of boat, you had proud people. You had many tribes of people who called North America their home that are no longer here today. I mean, you know, less than 1% of the people in America are Native American. That population has dwindled in such a small amount. And so violence is part of the land. And so we've lived in a violent country. We've taken violence to other places, very much so. We're still taking violence to other places right now as we speak. And so I believe that it's a learned experience, but I also believe that we can unlearn it and know that we're all divine beings having a human experience, and everybody have a right to be.
So what tools do you use to help us to unlearn this violent culture that we perpetuate?
Well, right now, what we're doing is asking for more volunteers to be able to get out with our posters. Right now we got a campaign going around Tyrone Love. He was just walking down his hood in 1996. 2000. I'm sorry, 2009. On Martin Luther King's, President Day weekend. He was 26 years old. He worked as a promoter, and he had worked at the YMCA. The YMCA, and just an all-around good guy that was not doing anything. And I think the reason why we talk about Tyrone Love so much because his name was Love. I mean, you got to be kind of disconnected from life to go shoot somebody with the name Tyrone Love. So what we do is we keep talking about the issue. We got lots of posters, and we have a poster that says "Break the silence, stop the violence, break the silence, and spread the peace." And we asking people to put that up. We had a volunteer campaign 2 weeks ago. People came out and picked up posters, and we keep working on other media campaigns and being in order to get the message out. I think it's like always messaging. You got to always be messaging because all of the other messages is about violence. Violence sells. It's a whole campaign. When I was growing up, you had Roadrunner, you had the cartoons, and we didn't think too much about Roadrunner getting hit on the head with a big old stone and pushed off a mountain because he never died. He just came right back, and so this is so entrenched in us, and also we're working with the Virtues Project to actually call people to their highest and best good, because the virtues are within us. That's really who we are, but sometimes we have to be called. Somebody have to call you to your highest and best to say, hey, wake up. It's a one-on-one campaign. If we had all of the answers by now, we'd have healed it by now. It's an American problem. Violence is an American problem, and how do we own it? And I think that we have to own it as an American problem, and then how do you move from that once you own it? I think that the whole world opens up to you once you own the fact that's the problem. And see, we're in such denial. I think Americans live their life in such denials. And there's so many different worlds. You have the 99% saying, let me in, I want some of this, and you're doing me, we're not getting what we want. And then you have the 1% that never goes to the grocery store. They never go to buy a new suit because somebody brings all that stuff to them. So they insulated from the real world. So you have you have so many different groups of people living in separate worlds. And unless we can come out of the denial, then this madness keeps going on, and so it's like, wake up, wake up. It's time to wake up on the planet, because the planet is changing. Everything is changing, and we're changing too. I have lots of hope. I'm just really not a jaded person. I see that the world is going to be wonderful. I believe that. I don't believe that the world is going to be going to down the drain. I don't believe that. I believe that we have fine people in the world, and I believe that every day people are working their hardest to change this. Most people who do this work don't get paid. They do it because they love children, or they do it because they love the community. And so I think that volunteerism in America is really, really alive. And I think that people really want to make a difference. And I think that one of the reasons why we have violence in our community with our youth, we have not asked them to do hard things. We must ask them to actually do something that stretches their ability to believe. And once a child stretches their ability to believe that they can do something, they change. And so what the drug guys do and the gangs, they recruit these kids and they ask them to do something hard, H-A-R-D, ask them to do something hard. The first thing they might do hard is, might go do some shoplifting and don't get caught. That's hard. If you've never done it before, your heart is pounding. And then they might ask them to punch somebody out, at a bus stop and don't get caught. And then the next hard thing they might do is give them a gun. and then somebody gets killed. But just think if we were asking them by the time they were 9 years old to do something hard as a community. You know, it's all kinds of hard jobs they can do. I mean, they can learn how to volunteer. I mean, you can take them to the base of Mount Rainier in the summer, and you know, they can hone their skills out in nature. There's so many hard things that we can be asking our children to do, and that builds character. You know, and I think that we have not. I think that parents have just not done that. They've given them way much than what they've earned. Children get way too much more than what they've earned, and then they're not required to do anything. You must require them to do something. You know, I mean, you can't send them to school and don't require them to bring their books home. You can't have them bring their books home and not sit at the table to do their homework. You know, we must require everything. You can't get in University of Washington without meeting the requirements. I don't care how you want to go, but if you have not finished high school or you don't have a GED and, you know, you can't do math, it's just some things you got to have. You got to fill up and meet the requirement. And I think that we have not put enough pressure on our children to help build character.
So do you think we need to also ask parents to do something hard?
I do. I think we have to ask parents to be engaged. They have to stay engaged. You cannot ever turn them loose. You can't wait. When they get to be in high school, you can't back off. You got to double your time. You got to be in the building. You got to show up unexpected. They cannot clock you. If your children know what time you're coming home and they know everything that you're doing, you're in trouble. You're in big trouble. You got to have a life that they can never clock you. You know, you show up in the building, they say, oh, I didn't know you were coming today. That's good. You know, I mean, and that's what it is. I mean, and I think that parents do not elicit enough help from other people. See, you can't raise your children by yourself. Cannot. It's not a possibility. Cannot raise your children by yourself. And I think that especially city people don't understand. You can't raise your children. I had a group of people I call my little round robin, and I was always somebody watching my children in a city. I had the audacity to believe that I was still in a small town. And by the way, I'm from Sanford, Florida, the town that's in the news. But I had the audacity to believe that I was still in a small town growing up in segregation where everybody had the right to know and to say something to me. So I raised my children and I ran my life that way in Seattle. And so my children, if they was on the bus and they weren't acting very well, they were misbehaving, somebody that knew me that had permission would go up and say, oh, how's your mama doing? I tell your mother I said hello. That was a real clue. Oh, there's somebody know me, you know. And so it was that kind of attitude that I believe that your children have to always know that somebody's watching them. And now, I mean, you know, when I was growing up, people could give you the bad eye and you kind of straighten up. Now you kind of glare at kids, they glare right back at you. Because they know that it's no consequences, see. And then when my kids come home, they said, some lady on the bus say, tell your mother I said hello. I didn't know who she was. I said, that's good. That's good. That's good. And that's what it takes. It's going to take really activating the village. I don't think the village has never gone away. I think it has not been activated. I think that it's sort of like just in a little lull right now. And it's to the parents' benefit to activate the village so that when the children are leaving the house. And also that the parents have to have a little bit more consequences. They have to know, the children have to know that, you know what, you got to be home by 10 o'clock. Oh, I'm going to get in trouble. I mean, like these kids with this new movie that's just tearing up the parents' homes when they're not there and they have friends coming over. I'm saying, wow, these kids have no healthy fear of their parents. I mean, you know, would you have a party at your parents' house and then it get out of hand? I said, wow, they have no healthy fear of their parents that they would have a party like that. And, you know, it's like, wow, something is missing. Something is missing. And I think what's missing is the wisdom of the elders. I mean, at one point, elders used to speak more often, and they used to correct more. And I think that we see kids doing bad things and misbehaving, and I think the elder's voice has been silent. And and unless the elders speak, the wisdom goes to the grave. You must not take the music with you. It must be played, and so it's like, wow, So now I just talk to young people, say, hey, pull your pants up, you're a Renaissance man, life is good, and they look at me and I say, oh yeah, come on, I said, and history will not judge us very carefully or very kindly, not as African American people, because I don't think that we did all we could to save our children. And I think that 41 has been killed in Chicago this year. 41 since January. I mean, that's a crime. And a baby got killed a few weeks ago in Chicago in a shootout. I mean, what is happening in America that people are actually, it's not like they're warring in the cities. It's not like they're warring over property that they don't own. They're warring over a substance maybe that they don't own. So most people around the world are warring. If it's war, it's about land so they can have a place to stay or food or some right to exist. This is not a right to exist kind of war. This is just a war on youth and on kids. What are they fighting about? What is this? What is this beef about? When it's way more opportunity in the world today than it was for me growing up in segregation, it is so much opportunity in the world today. It really is. If you really want it bad enough, you can find a way to be successful. And even in a so-called downed economy, entrepreneurship is up. There's so much creativity out there. So it's like you have to reorder the world, and that's what we're about. We're trying to reorder the world with conversations, with focus groups. Just with field trips. That's why the Red Tails was a good trip. And then we're working with some other women, and we're going to be taking some young girls up to the tulips to be able to get out of the city. We believe that more expansion. And I think extreme beauty also changes people. Exquisite beauty, just to go and see something beautiful, will actually open you up to joy, to a deep joy and that kinds of stuff. So, again, I'm just really hopeful.
You were mentioning earlier that you grew up in the same town that Trayvon Martin was from?
Well, actually, he's from Miami, but I think, but I was visiting this farther in Sanford, Florida. So I grew up in Sanford, Florida. And that time it was segregated. I lived in the Goldsboro part of Sanford, Florida. That was all segregated town, and excuse me. And I went to segregated high school. I went to segregation all my life, so I never went to integrated schools. And I think on some levels, the price we paid to integrate was way too high. We lost way more than we gained. We lost the control of our children, the minds of our children, and the history that they should know has not ever been taught to them in all of these other settings. But I grew up in a community where I was taught. All my teachers was master teachers taught by the late Dr. Miriam McLeod Methune, who actually was a friend of Eleanor Roosevelt and had some influence on her with the Tuskegee Airmen. She set up a college there in Daytona Beach called Bethune-Cookman. And so I had master teachers who believed in me. It's an incredible journey to have teachers that believe in you. And I think that our children go to buildings every day where nobody believes in them. You can go from kindergarten to 12th grade in an integrated system and not have anybody to believe in your capabilities, to believe that you're fabulous, to believe that you're beautiful and that you're wonderful. And one of the things that keep going on, I have a 1905 dictionary. I collect dictionaries. And it's amazing what you find in old dictionaries. In the 1905 dictionary, it says to be white is to be pure like snow and sinless like a white man. That's what it says. To be black is to be cold, fearful, and ugly like a Negro. So what we have today is codified in the dictionaries. If you find old dictionaries, it is just really, and all of this language is what feeds this stuff. I mean, it's what makes us be suspicious, and people think that we're criminals or we're criminal-minded, and that whites are sinless and pure. And it's part of this. It's part of this language. And it's part of all the things that we do in America is that one group has been charged to that they're worthless, that they have no value, and of course we've had young people now to internalize that. They actually believe that they have no value, that they're really cold and momentary people. The late Dr. Ivan Van Sertima said that Cecil Rhodes. Cecil Rhodes' definition of and Cecil Rhodes was from South Africa, and he's the person who the Rhodes Scholar is named after. He said that the definition of a Negro was a species who came on the scenes very late in life, that it was called a momentary group of people, and they had a limited ability to learn, and that ability ended by the time that they're 21 years old. So that definition still feeds every public policy. I mean, that's why it's an achievement gap, because people over time have come to believe that we can't learn. And that has been even more pronounced since integration. I came out of a world where nobody didn't believe that I could not learn. It was no entertaining of any special ed. Special ed was designed to make sure that a group of people could not advance when we had no special ed and segregation. If you had kids who were slow to get it, they were just everybody was in groups, and you always had smart people in the groups with the people who had a hard time getting it. It was no special ed, and so as a result of integration, you have special ed, and it's like, wow, how did that come about? And then also after integration, you had the people who had the most experience of teaching black kids. They lost their job in the South. 28,000 people lost their jobs as a result of integration, because white people was determined that black teachers would not teach their children. So the people who had the most experience at teaching black kids, who was not afraid of them, who knew that their capabilities, who knew that they can learn, they lost their job. We never recovered from that vacuum, from that vastness of teachers losing their job. And so now you fast forward here to 2012, you have our kids going into buildings where people don't care about them, where people who don't believe that they can learn, and if they have the capacity to learn, they don't think they're going to be able to keep it very long, because by the time that they're 21, their ability to learn kind of ceases. And so all of those old definitions still runs public policy, whether it comes to medicine. I mean, even people who have money, black people, still don't get the best care as other people. So it really is, I think, the fundamental reason why we haven't shifted racism in this country is because what's been codified in the dictionary and how that finds its way, even with the prosecutors. I'm often thinking, I would love to do a PowerPoint with prosecutors to just show them the language and they see how it just impacts them, because it does. In the courtroom, it impacts the fact that you think that all these people are criminals. And Caucasians have harmed us way more in America. We ought to be scared of white people. We ought to be the one that's scared. Because at any given time, our lives can be taken by many, many different ways. But the history is on our side. The historical record is on our side, how we've been harmed. And now you can take this last 30 years, and it would be like the point on the Space Needle. You have the point on the Space Needle, and you have that juxtaposed to 500 years almost in this country. That's just a dot on the page. The historical record of violence and harm and being locked out of a system is surely on our side. And with the projection that goes on, with the projection of that we're somebody to be feared, and we're the ones who are cynical, and that we need to be watched, it's all made up. I mean, because most of the harm we do with this black on black harm. We harm ourselves way more than we harm everybody else. And so a black mother in America has three things to worry about. She has to worry about her son getting killed on black violence because of internalized racism. I have to worry about an event just like Trayvon Martin. And then you got to worry about the police. I mean, so it's three different ways that your son might not come home. I mean, I think that's an awful burden for black mothers to have to live a lifetime and dealing with that. And a lot of it is just because the way that society is. I mean, we have such a right to be, and our blackness is not a crime. See, being black in the world is not a crime. I mean, in fact, I think it's a gift. I think melanin is a gift instead of a burden or a curse. So anyway, it's like, how do you be in this country, and I want to be part of a country, not get jaded, and want to bring your gifts to the table. I mean, how do you do all of that when, like in this state, when they got rid of I-200? Well, I mean, that was getting rid of affirmative action. Now it's like the Mississippi of the West. Black people business, either they've been run out of business, or black contractors don't get any work. And it's like we're paying taxes in Washington State, but the tax money doesn't come back to our community, so there's disparity. I mean, so it's like once you get one place, then the snowball effect of the system trying to make sure that it doesn't work. I mean, we're always starting over again. That's what it feels like for black people on a lot of levels. We're always starting over again. But again, we're just going to keep at it because we have a right to be here. We didn't just get here. I like to tell Caucasians this. I really do. I said the last slave ship came in the 1830s. So we've been here from the 1600s, 1692, 1600s, up until the 1830s is when the last slave ship came. Most Caucasians came after the 1880s. They came after the Missouri Compromise. Most people don't know what the Missouri Compromise was, but it was a compromise that Lincoln, the compromise that the enslaved human beings, once they were free people, would not be able to go past Missouri. So if you wanted to have manifest destiny in people of the West, you have to open up. Immigration. So most of the people in America today, Caucasians, came after the 1830s. After the 1880s, and they don't know that. So it's like, okay. I mean, we've been here for such a long time. We've been here for a long time, so where are we going back to? It's like, that's just it. What does it take to shift the opinion that we've been here? We didn't just come. We've been here longer than a lot of the Tea Party people. We've been here much longer than some of them. I think it's kind of funny. It's like, okay, where are we going back to? Really? When did you come? In the 1880s. Oh, man. We've been here for such a long time. Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, we're just about out of time. We're talking with Harriett Walden. She is the founder and national director of the Silent War Campaign. How can people find out more about your organization and connect with it?
Yeah, well, they can call actually, we have a website called thesilentwar.org, and they can get information there. They could call us at 206-380-1710. And I would just like to say one thing about Mothers for Police Accountability. We're having our annual Paul Robeson event on April 21st at 4 p.m. at the Senior Center, it's called the Central Area Senior Center. And you can get information about us from our hotline, and our number is 206-329-2033. And our email is mothers for police accountability at yahoo.com.
Very good.
All right.
Well, with that, we're unfortunately out of time. I want to thank
Yeah.
you very much for coming and spending time with us this morning.
Well, thank you very much. You're welcome.